Hi, this is Jen Rubin, and this is Jen Rubin's Green Room. You had to have a heart of stone not to be touched by those images last night. The president and the vice president and the families of the released hostages on the tarmac, wishing and hoping that their loved ones would come home for so many years, finally embracing them. The president, the vice president embracing them. The president taking off his American flag pin and putting it on Paul Whelan, the Marine. It was truly a magnificent tribute to the American spirit and to the talent and the hard work of people who actually know what they're doing. At its best, government allows people with skill, with determination, with intelligence to do good things or even great things. And this was a very good thing. It showed that, first of all, diplomacy matters. Allies matter. You can't just go around threatening and bullying people. That as much as you might want to kiss up to dictators, they don't do favors for us. That sometimes hard decisions need to be made. And I think it also showed that President Biden is incredibly talented, has been a very good president, is still a very good president, is completely in command of his job. At the same time, he's not able to convince the American people he should have 4 more years and run a vigorous campaign. I think those two things are completely cogent. I think those two ideas interact with one another. And I think they explain why so many in his administration were so reluctant to have him step away, because they see him operate every day in this way. They see how impassioned he is, how compassionate he is, how talented he is. And you would understand that they would want such a person to remain president. But among his other talents was the ability to self-reflect and to step away when he understood the country needed him to. And so we now have a transformed race. If you look at the polls, if you look at the money raised, over $300 million Vice President Harris has raised in the last month, it's astounding. There is an explosion of excitement. There are hundreds of thousands of volunteers signing up. These Zoom calls that she has had organized on her behalf have been tremendously successful. You could just see the entire mood of the electorate swing and the entire mood of Democrats rise. They were down in the dumps, and now they are at least riding a wave. Now, there is certainly much to do, and there is no way of determining at this point who's going to win the election. So there's a lot of hard work to be had. But for the first time, I think Democrats really do believe they can win this, and they can win this perhaps even in a convincing way. And perhaps they can even both win the House and keep the Senate. So it is just a sea change in how things are perceived. You've noticed over the past few days that the vice president has very adroitly responded to a number of issues. First, on that tarmac, she was respectful of the president. She allowed him to be the primary focus, the first person to greet them, but she was also able to make her own statement on the tarmac. She also was engaged with the hostages and the hostage families, and that was a deft use of statecraft. And of course, we saw her respond to Trump's abominable race baiting, and she rose above it. She put him in his place, made him seem small, which he is, and showed that she's the presidential one. And in the next few days, we're going to find out who her vice president is. I have no idea who it's going to be, but I do know this. Democrats have an embarrassment of riches. They don't have a J.D. Vance in the bank. They don't have a rotten apple in the barrel. They do not have someone who is going to insult single women who have cats and no children. They are not going to have someone who is every 2 seconds making a remark or having a remark from his past revealed that is embarrassing to the Republicans. You're going to have someone who's qualified. You're going to have someone who is appealing, who has been tested. I suspect that it's going to be someone who can help her rather, with a key region or a key state. I think you're probably going to get someone like a Tim Walz, a Josh Shapiro, or a Mark Kelly, but I don't know. The good news is whoever it is going to be just fine, and it's going to be more than fine. And that's the difference between a party that actually is interested in governance, that actually has been electing competent people in the states and to the Senate, and actually values governance. These are not people who are frivolous, silly characters. These are not people who have changed on a dime because it's in their political self-interest. These are people who have done hard work at making themselves known, but in furthering the interests of the people they represent. And they are, to a person, every one of them, impressive. So I don't think she's going to go wrong. And next week, she's going to be out there campaigning with whoever her vice president is. And by then, she will have formally wrapped up the nomination. And we will be set for an entirely different race than any of us would have predicted. Now we are also zeroing in on the convention, which is fast approaching. And I think that is going to be another shot in the arm. Trump got no boost from the convention. He has a very low ceiling. He's at it already. He's not going to add any voters to his cause. But she, on the other hand, has another opportunity to reach millions of more people. You're going to see a unified party. You're going to see a heartfelt farewell to President Biden. And you're going to see real emotion, I think, in sending him on his way into retirement after he's completed the rest of his term. And I think you're going to see a lot of joy. That's one of the things that she has brought to the race. Kamala Harris campaigns with joy, with enthusiasm, with optimism, with a sense of energy. And I think Americans are warming to that because they are so sick of the same old, same old. I cannot believe the American people want to have 4 more years of Donald Trump and his race baiting and his crazy cockamamie conspiracy theories and his lies. We don't have to have that anymore. We can move past that. And I think that's part of why the mood seems lighter and there does seem to be a light at the end of the tunnel. So we are, however, still confronted with a very dangerous world. And we should look to the Middle East right now with the Israeli strikes on Hamas leaders and Hezbollah leader in Lebanon. The potential for another military clash between Iran and Israel has grown. And although the two parties are careful and do not want to see a new conflagration, a all-out war, the opportunity and the potential for a miscalculation is huge. The Iranians may want to lob a bunch of missiles thinking, well, most of these won't get through. There'll be Iron Dome there to send them back. But what if they strike something that's very important? Or what if they kill a high-level Israeli leader? Or what if they trigger a absolute expanded war? What if upon seeing Iran's unleashing its weapons, Hezbollah gets into the act? There is always the possibility that we will trigger a wider war. And again, that's why you want a responsible leader like the president, who last time came to Israel's aid, who not only helped physically defend Israel, but organized allies in the region to help Israel. So we will be looking to that and hoping and praying that that does not result in further loss of life and in a wider war. And meanwhile, those negotiations go on and on and on. There's one way of looking at the recent strikes by the Israelis as a way to disrupt the negotiations. Bibi Netanyahu, frankly, doesn't want a peace. He benefits by staying in office because there's a war going on. He benefits by keeping the opposition divided and by satisfying his right-wing coalition partners. But there's another way that you might look at this, and that is that as he is striking down these various Hamas leaders, terrorist leaders, it provides him an opportunity eventually, not right away, but eventually to say, we really have eliminated the Hamas threat. Not only have we wiped out all of these fighters, but all their leadership is gone. And if you look at it in that way, it may be a precursor, finally, to a larger ceasefire and a movement towards a larger peace in the Middle East. And wouldn't that be wonderful? So we have a lot to be grateful for, a lot to be happy about. Our hearts go out to the families and to the hostages who are now back on American soil, and to the Russian dissidents who we freed. These are Russians who have no connection to the United States, who we insisted be released, because that's the kind of country we are. And you should be proud to be an American. You should be proud to be an American who has a government that values democracy and human life and families. So remember, we are not there yet, hardly. The race has just begun. The fight has just begun. You need to continue to advocate on whatever platform you have. You have to register to vote, get people you know to register to vote. There are so many organizations, not just campaigns, that need your time and need your money. They're going to have all kinds of legal battles, as the Republicans, I am sure, will refuse to recognize the results of this election if they lose. So there are wonderful groups like Democracy Docket, like Democracy, Protect Democracy, the ACLU, NAACP. All of these groups protect democracy and protect the vote. So think about giving to them or donating some of your time to them. And also, I want to hear from you. Send in your questions and your comments. Tell me what you think. I want to hear about it. So in the meantime, if you like this program and you like our other programs, please tell your friends. They can listen and follow us on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or wherever they get their podcasts. Bye-bye.